Welcome back. My name's Pat,
And I'm Shane.
and this is Pie the Corner.
What's up,
So,
y'all?
how you doing, man?
I'm good, good, good. How about you?
I'm feeling actually pretty good this week. Been doing a lot of yoga and exercise
Mm-hmm.
over the past couple weeks, and like every day, I'll do like 50 minutes of yoga. I'll do my exercise, whatever that is, whether it's running or, push-ups, pull-ups, that kind of stuff. And then I'll do another thing of yoga later in the day. And just because, I'm just sitting here and I realize like how much time I waste.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could really waste a lot of time really well. I'm
Mm-hmm. Oh
really
yeah.
good at that. And so I was just like, well, screw it. I'm just going to do this stuff. And, for me, it all started with my back. I have kind of like a bad back and overall in my life, and sitting, in a chair every day working and stuff, it really started to get to a point now that I'm getting older where I would stand up and it would just be like, oh my God, I couldn't, get a good feeling going for like a good 5 minutes. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be one of those dudes that just like takes pills and, give me a prescription, doctor, I'm going to fix this, that way. So I was like, I know that if I do some yoga and you know, and get some exercise, lose some weight, I'll feel better. And so far, it's been working. I mean, obviously
Mm-hmm.
early stages, but yeah. So that's what I've been up to. How about you? What have you been up to this
Oh man, I've been doing couch yoga, dude, pretty much all day, every day.
week?
um, but I dissatisfaction's creeping in, and I know about myself. Anytime I start getting miserable or completely dissatisfied, that's when I get up off my ass and start doing all the things I know I'm supposed to do. Reestablishing good habits and good pathways and just getting that ball rolling again. Uh, I woke up today, I got a pretty good night's sleep. I woke up today. I was just, dragging ass again. I'm dragging ass every day for no reason. And it's just because I'm not getting my heart going, not getting blood to my brain or whatever. We both know how I can solve that problem by getting out more. But I
Yeah.
just haven't felt like it. But knowing that I was going to do this podcast today, I was like, man, I need to get out on the bike. I need to get my legs going, I need to get my heart beating, get some blood in my brain. And I did that and pretty much changed the course of my day. Sounds like, you're doing that a lot. Maybe you're further along that pathway than I am right now, but it felt good to get out today. Uh, Weather's been real nice. There's a nice breeze out there. And I'm still, I've only been in this neighborhood a couple months, so I'm still kind of getting to know the neighborhood. So it's kind of fun to get out there and look at all the streets and people and kind of learn how to get through this neighborhood, check out the houses, the trees, whatever. And it was that kind of a bike ride.
That's cool.
So, it was nice. As far as more exercise, I'd really like to get into that, push up, sit up thing and, maybe even body weight squats. I can do body weight squats, but, I'm having this issue with my shoulder. And
Yeah.
what was it last week? I got a steroid shot in it, and that's supposed to help with the inflammation. And to be honest with you, I have more mobility in the shoulder than I've had in months. I'm still a little bit scared to test it because last time I tried to do push-ups, the only way I could do it was on my knees. It was just way too much pressure on my
Yeah.
shoulder. But I
Yeah.
figure I'll kind of let it go for maybe a few more weeks, and then maybe try to do some push-ups. Because when I'm feeling lazy, man, there's just nothing that whips me into shape than starting to do daily push-ups. And so hopefully, maybe I can go down that road. And if not, maybe I'll end up getting surgery. Beyond
Yeah.
that, beyond that, I don't know. I started watching Fargo this week, season
Oh,
four,
cool.
season four of Fargo. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the first three seasons. Chris Rock's in this episode, and the first three seasons, Fargo kind of took place where the original Fargo took place, South Dakota, Minnesota, whatever, and it kind of made sense. Well, this year they just totally went radical and they put it in 1950 Kansas City. And it's like there's a war for turf between the African Americans and the Italians, who are the new guys in town. But it's been pretty fucking boring so far. I love the series, and I'm just hoping it's going to get better. But if I didn't have anything, anyways, so that and I know I turned you on to the new Hendrix release, the Live at Maui.
Yeah.
That without a doubt, that's the most noteworthy thing I've heard this week. You know, I always say, what are you listening to? What's new?
Yeah.
There's just nothing even that comes close to anything that came across my radar this week compared to that.
Well, it's cool too, because I, as a whatever high school kid, when I was really learning still a lot about Hendrix and playing guitar and stuff like that, I saw that. I mean, you could, back then it was video stores, so I went and rented that movie. And that obviously the first part of that movie is like some weird hippy dippy cult
No,
thing going on.
Rainbow Bridge, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I was just kind of like, what in the fuck is this? And I mean, I wasn't like against it. It was just kind of like, oh, let's get to the music already.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't really stand the test of time.
No, it doesn't at all. And I don't know what the deal was with that, but to juxtapose that with like the Hendrix concert, I guess it was just meaning like, oh, and Hendrix is here. But to the point I was trying to make, to that point, I had listened to a lot of the albums that he did, that the known albums, Are You Experienced? And then Smash Hits was the first album I got, which is a compilation of Are You Experienced and, Electric Ladyland and all of his first few records. So this was like really cool to see see him live. And to me, it is like the cream of Hendrix for me, as far as a live show and a video, because I feel like he was comfortable. He looked comfortable. He looked happy. I think he loved the scenery and where he was. I think that helped him a lot, because for me, a lot of the videos I've watched of Hendrix live, he looks like he's miserable. Because I think when you read a lot about the history of that band, especially when he was with the Experience, he was in that position where they were like forcing him to play the same shit every night in the same way every night. And he really was not that kind of person. So seeing him in this environment was great. And I thought it sounded beautiful. And I love that, Hey Baby and New Rising Sun and the way that his effect sounded and everything. So up till this week, every once in a while I was searching for that somewhere, where I could listen to it without having to watch the movie, and you could never find it. There was like one song on like a compilation album I saw that my friend had 30 years ago. And now this is like, wow, like this is the whole concert. So yeah, it's cool. It's really cool to hear it and see it again. And I mean, not see the movie, but to just hear the music again.
Yeah. Whenever I sent it to you and I kind of complained about it, I didn't realize that it was 2 whole discs of music. So it's obviously much more expansive,
right?
Than what I first realized when I was kind of ribbing them about releasing it. And also the sound quality, just bar none. I think we've talked about this before. The late era of Hendrix is my favorite era of Hendrix, even though nobody really knows about that era because there's no hits from it per se.
Yeah, right.
But, when they first started releasing material, like back in the 90s when they did Voodoo Soup or the Blues album or the South Saturn Delta album, I love all those songs. I love Dolly Dagger. I love Message to Love. I love Straight Ahead. I
House
love
Burning Down.
Yeah, and Hey Baby is just absolutely one of my favorite Hendrix songs. I don't think it should be, but it is. The melody and the guitar playing just takes me away. So that's why I love it so much. And also to your point about him being comfortable or a little more settled in and happy, he was playing with who he wanted to play with, without a doubt, at that era in his career. Yeah. He'd switched around. He'd done the Buddy Miles thing, Band of Gypsies. This was after that. And obviously it was right before he died. He was really playing music on his own terms for the first time probably in his entire life. Right then and there. And you and I both know the music was changing. It was becoming more focused, kind of way more R&B. It wasn't psychedelic. His guitar playing is kind of psychedelic, but it's electric guitar, very, very strong blues R&B. I'd say, heavy blues bass. And, how much we both love that.
Yeah, I think I'm totally down with what you said about the late era, because I was like that too, even in high school when I did finally get like a record, or like it was a tape, but it had like Dolly Dagger and all of those older songs that really I think were meant to be on an album, but they were like an unfinished album at that point, right? So like he had done Electric Ladyland, and then it was kind of after that he was doing a lot of work, but it never got finished. And so those songs are just awesome. And I mean, it's that kind of thing where, I always say, it's like, what would he have done had he lived? Because that stuff was like just the beginning of, who the hell knows what it would have been. It would have taken like fusion rock. In my book, it probably would have gone some fusion R&B rock thing. But man, it was just, I love it's interesting too, because I love those songs, but when you hear him play them live, you can tell he's still kind of working out how to play it live, because a lot of them have so much weird instrumentation, and the singing is like the words are kind of complicated over that instrumentation, that he's like trying to figure out a way to do it. So it's cool. It's just like all around, just like a really cool sound and a really cool album, this new one. So
well, cool. I think this probably leads us to our topic for the day. Now that we've kind of settled in a little bit, I proposed to you a couple weeks ago after our last podcast. I guess that's right when Eddie Van Halen died at 65 this year. I thought it might be nice to mix things up and talk about another passion of ours, which is music, and just get off the political topics and just really kind of reflect on Eddie Van Halen as an artist and the huge impact he had on us growing up as young American men and even guitar players.
Sure, yeah, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's one of those artists, Van Halen, that I listen to a lot, and it seems like a lot of people I know don't really listen to them anymore. Like maybe there was a point when they did in the 80s or 90s.
I wanted to talk about this, and fortunately his death, at least fortunately for me, and I think for the world, his death kind of shined a light on him and his body of work again for the first time in a long time, because their heyday was like 40 years ago. And as I've talked to you a lot, 40 years ago is a long time ago for like a 20 or 30-year-old. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a long time ago. And it may be your dad's music or your grandpa's music. And a lot of people they're like, I want to listen to modern music. I don't want to listen to old music. There's a multitude of reasons, but for whatever reason, and you may agree with me on this, I think Van Halen was kind of forgotten to history. Certainly Van Halen is a band. In the David Lee Roth era, it's not there. I don't see them getting the same treatment as like late 60s, maybe some 70s classic rock did, for some reason they're just not quite respected as a band the same way other great American bands are. And hear me out on this. So I propose to you that we kind of go through and listen to all the early great Van Halen albums. You know what I was going to say there.
Yeah.
So it made me realize they did 5 albums in 5 years, from 78 to 82. That is an amazing amount of work putting out, and doing stadium tours all year, every year, any chance they could whip one out between those tours. But what I hadn't listened to most of those songs and most of those albums in the better part of 30 years. So I'm a different person now. I have different ears, and I listen to it with fresh ears for the first time ever, or the first time recently. And a couple things dawned on me. One was just they're the ultimate party band. They just like, that's all they were about, is the party. And if you listen to the lyrics, they're every goddamn thing is about sex and women, and it's just it's really shallow. I mean, it's entertainment. They don't have any like statement on life or universality or anything.
It's a party.
And so I guess it didn't really matter to me at that age, 13 to 15 or whatever, but inevitably I outgrew them. But I just kind of want to touch on that, because I really do think they're kind of forgot to history. And I don't even go revisit it. Revisiting, for me, I got tired of it. I really like listening to some aspects of Eddie Van Halen's playing, but most albums probably only have about 2 good songs on them, and then all the rest is just filler, and just basically not
really
that good.
deep cuts. Yeah, deep cuts it's funny. It's funny you bring it up that way too, because that's now the first album. I could say of most of that, I like all of that.
But they took that out of their concert repertoire. They had, one perfect album in the can.
Yeah,
you know.
So, but it's true. Like you look at like Van Halen 2, and then Mean Street. Well, I got to make sure I get the album names right.
Women and Children's the next one.
Yeah, there you go. And it's true. It's like you'll have like Dance the Night Away, and then nothing else. And it's not like it's good stuff, but some of it to me sounds like they're just in the studio and they're like, well, we need another song. So, and so he just makes some shit up. And then, and they'll have like this flamenco guitar thing, and it sounds beautiful and it's great, but it's just kind of like, I mean, I don't know if I would call it a filler per se, but it is kind of has that feel to it.
Well, it's
like it's there, but it's not really part of
it's
the statement of an album.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And you're like, how does this song relate to the rest of this material? Or like one of those classic, like, what's wrong with this picture? Which one doesn't fit? They have a lot of songs like that on every album where you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. Eddie Van Halen can play his ass off, but what the fuck is this?
Well, I think what it is it goes back to the, moderate little bit I know about their beginning. Like you said, they were a party band, and they were a Southern California party band. And so they had to play what they were told to play, and they needed to play the hits, but they wanted to do their own thing too. So, that's why you have like on their first album, you have like Pretty Woman, and you have like, those other songs that are cover songs, basically, that they totally make their own. And I'm just like looking at them like, Ain't Talking About Love. I mean, that's their song, but, and then these like other ones like Atomic Punk, which they were trying to sound like a punk song. I mean, it's interesting because I think it comes from that desire to please the audience,
without
give
doubt.
everybody something, but it still has that feel of like you said, it's just like a party. It's just like, let's party and have some fun. And that's why I think it resonated back in the 80s, because everybody was fucking partying back in the Reagan years. And then even us coming up at that point, in the mid to late 80s, we were, partying too. And that's back when kids in high school used to do that. Maybe they still do, but not quite as much probably as we did then. But yeah, I think that's where a lot of that stuff comes from, is like, they wanted to just play all things for all people. And so you find all these songs on some of these albums where it's just like, what is this? It's like, it almost doesn't fit. It doesn't sound as complete as, say, Dance the Night Away, or, shit, I don't know. Everybody Wants Some is a great tune. And The Cradle Will Rock. I'm not a big fan of that song, but
well, it's still one of the best songs on that album. And it's I think on that album, speaking of albums that only have 2 good songs, I only think those first 2 songs are worth a damn, and I think the rest of the album is just, the bar is really low, dude. Everybody Wants Some is great.
And then on Fair Warning, you had Mean Street, which I think is a fucking awesome song, and Unchained. And those are like the 2 on that one that I'm like, I'll keep going back to those 2 songs. But then everything else, like some of them I probably haven't even listened to. Like the last 1 or 2 songs, I probably haven't even listened to.
That album grew on me. I got fond of that album for some reason, probably because it's real dark. It's just got a real dark vibe to it. No other album they put out sounds like that. And so I think I like the song So This Is Love on there. Yeah. So this is love. Ooh, I need your love, man. So this is love. Okay, so I like what we're touching on here. Another thing that really just blew me away is, for whatever reason, due to marketing reasons, in the early 80s, they were marketing Van Halen as a heavy metal band. Yeah, they were a hair band from LA, but they were not a heavy metal band. It's just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're basically a pop band, what you were talking about, where they wanted to be something for everybody. They were basically like a guitar pop band, if you can just bear with me there. And it really became evident uh, with the 1984 album Onward. Right before the 1984 album, Eddie Van Halen built his own studio, and all the rest of the albums were recorded in that studio. And you saw a huge escalation in the quality of his songs from 84 to 5150 compared to their early body of the work. They didn't sound like early Van Halen, but let's face it, it was the mid 80s. It wasn't 1978 anymore. A lot of things had changed. And I thought, especially, take 1984 with the Jump single that was released first, and then take 5150 with, Why Can't This Be Love, or Right Now, or whatever. I thought at the time, because I was so true to my roots in heavy metal and everything, I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about, but that's what I thought. I thought Van Halen was a sellout for going that route, when in actuality, and I go revisit the body of the work and look at it from a different perspective, they were always a pop band. They just became a way more well-polished pop band. And as a result, they conquered the freaking world. There was not a band bigger in the entire world than Van Halen in 1986. So it's real interesting. But I don't really want to go too far down that Sammy Hagar thing. Whenever I looked up Van Halen on Spotify, they have the most popular songs, and you can see about 10 songs that are, the most listened to songs in their catalog. Yeah. 8 out of the 10 were David Lee Roth songs. And that sounds about right. I'm surprised it wasn't 10 out of 10.
I would say that it's important to kind of touch on the Hagar thing, because I really liked 5150. That was one of the first albums I ever bought, like record albums, no, not tape, but and I don't know why I did. I think it was again, like back then they used to have some promotional shit that would be on like HBO or something, and I'm thinking overall it was just a promotional video, but it was kind of like this concert video of like them and Hagar, their first tour, first or second tour, and it was like, dude, they were having so much fun and they were partying. It was the party, and it was like the stack full of fucking Jack Daniels, and like that was like this thing for me as a kid that was coming up. Like that's what cool is. That's what it's like to be cool. So and then I did like the music too, and it was like you kind of got to see for the first time, at least for me, like actually see Eddie Van Halen play. And, they were playing some of the older stuff, but it was like Hot Summer Nights and those songs, 5150 and Dreams is another great tune off that album. Yeah, I mean, like I really liked that era. And but then like the later era, like in the early 90s when they were winning all these awards, and I didn't really particularly go with them. That's kind of when I lost my...
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much that I didn't want to touch on Van Hagar. I wanted to hold off on that, and that's fine. I agree with you. I like it just as much, if not better in some ways, because Eddie Van Halen's songwriting just blossomed to where he could just write a great song.
Yeah,
dude,
I know.
But what I want to talk about now, and really this was the impetus for doing this whole podcast, is if you and me can kind of talk about the impact Eddie Van Halen had on our life as a teenager, a guitar player, soon to be guitar player, and what it was like, the first time you heard the music, or, if you remember any episode of what your first time was, or who turned you on to it, or whatever. Do you have any ideas regarding that? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, sure. Like, it was their first album, and I don't know who in my family bought it, but it was there. Like we had just like a stack of maybe 20 or 30 albums that, my brothers and sisters had purchased. And I don't know who it was. It could have been my brother closest to me in age. But it was the very first song I heard was Running with the Devil. So I put this record on, like, because I would just see the record sitting there, and they're all like doing this kind of shit, and Eddie's like this, and so I was like, what the hell is this
The
crap?
big VH in the center.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, classic album cover. And so I put it on and it was just like, boom, boom, boom. And I was just like, holy shit. So, I mean, I was kind of like, I wouldn't say I was like hooked from the get go, but I was really interested, in what that was. And then, we're talking the 80s, and my brother, who is closest to me in age, is 4 years older than me. Him and his friends would listen to that music amongst other things. And so I got to see like older kids partying with that music, and it just had that. So and I mean, how I think of Van Halen as, that first experience with them was summer. It's about, it's them, like they would let me ride around with them, and one of his friends had a Jeep, and the top would be down, and they'd be playing like 1984, that album. And so like those sounds were playing, and they're driving to like the McDonald's to meet the girls and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it was like, like it meshed with what they were. I felt like that the band was. And so that was my experience with them as like a party type thing. As a guitar player, I was just like, well, I'm never going to be able to play like that. But I didn't care. I loved to watch him do it and hear it. But I knew, like, I mean, I probably could have, but I just wasn't interested in that style. But I also felt like, oh, that's way out of my league. That's like classical. That, I mean, kind of like a heavy metal, like a lot of the tapping and all that shit. I was like, still to this day, I can't really tap out a song. I don't know what the hell that is, but I mean, I get the concept. But so yeah, I mean, again, it was those feelings, that summery, like kind of party vibe. And then when I saw the promotional shit for one of their, with the Hagar thing, that kind of continued it, and being able to watch him play, and he's always smiling and shit, like Eddie Van Halen smiles while he plays. So I'm like, dude, they're fucking enjoying this, which makes me enjoy it. And you see all the people partying and all the pretty girls, and it's, again, it just plays into exactly what you said. You nailed it. It's a party song. It's a party band, pop party band. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like my first experiences with it. And I loved the hard nature of the songs, and like fucking Alex Van Halen is a badass drummer. I would put him up there in the top 10 of rock drummers.
He's a beast.
And I mean, like him and Anthony, Michael Anthony, like I don't think without those two, that band would be shit. I mean, I think Eddie is fucking awesome, but those guys take that shit to another level. And Michael Anthony's just like don 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 don. I mean, like one note thing, but it's like the power of the,
absolutely,
just all of it. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of that shit. I still to this day, I love those songs like Unchained and Dance the Night Away are those two that I really listen to a lot. And just fun stuff. I don't know, it's just powerful. What about you?
Okay, for me, this will be a little bit interesting. I'll find it interesting anyway, just to kind of relive the story, how it went down. So in my household growing up with my mother, we didn't have a family stereo. I might have had like, one of those flat tape decks where, the thing would lift and you just put a cassette in. And it was just like one cassette deck. It was like before boom boxes or anything.
Sure, yeah.
That's probably the extent of what my music reproduction capabilities were. We didn't have that stack of albums or anything like that. Basically, all I had was top 40 radio, because I didn't know about anything else. I didn't know about the lower on the dial stuff or public radio or, the reggae station, the black station, or whatever it may be. I mean, I grew up in suburban Houston, so really all I knew is what a lot of people, like maybe what your older brother and sister listened to or what your parents listened to. That's all I knew throughout middle school, junior high. Then, in 8th grade, I moved in with my dad instead of my mom. And he was living with his girlfriend at the time, or fiance, who had 2 kids of her own. And My sister had to bunk. This is going somewhere. My sister had to bunk with the girl, and I had to bunk with the guy. Well, in the guy's room, he had the whole room like up top, like
Yeah,
the
like
top part of the wall. It was lined with album covers as far as the eye could see. It was like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Van Halen, and I was just like, wow, dude, my bedroom's a record store. And I would just lay in bed and stare at these albums and just wonder what they sound like. And he had just tons of cassette tapes too. And most importantly, he had a guitar and an amplifier in that room. And he let me play it, even though I sucked. Boy, I was like, you want to talk about all thumbs? I was just like the worst beginner ever. Those two brother and sister had an older brother, and he used to tell me, oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Can you please stop? Please just stop.
I laugh, but it's not funny. It's sad.
And it's completely cruel, but I've told you this story before. And what it did, it definitely hurt me and embarrassed me, but it toughened my resolve to where no matter what, I was going to get good at guitar. Because I was going to prove that motherfucker wrong. I was going to prove that abusive dick bully wrong. Okay. So amongst all this long story, I sure know how to make a short story long. One of my favorite tapes, or probably all my favorite band out of all this, Judas Priest, Def Leppard, Iron Maiden, Motley Crue, or anything, was Van Halen. And he had like the whole collection. So I would just listen to that shit over and over and over again. Way back in the day, you'd see Van Halen on MTV some. You'd see the Dance the Night Away video. You'd see the Unchained video. And that's about all you'd see. But man, I would like stay up late at night trying to watch you know how they play the videos overnight on some of those channels, like on TBS or something, or USA Network. And I would just, or even Friday night videos, man, I would just try to catch those videos and record them so I could watch them over and over and over again and try to learn something from them. At this point, I'm a fucking guitar player, okay, even though I can't play. I'm looking at the guitar magazines, guitar books, trying to figure out how to play Eruption or just little parts of it, taking the, how a lot of guitar books that weren't tablature, they were kind of like piano song books.
Yeah.
And you kind of would have to dissect them and figure out what the melody was and make your own chords. Yeah. And translate the notes one at a time on your guitar. I was doing that shit to Van Halen songs, man. And it makes me laugh when you said, I knew there's no way in the world I could ever be as good as him. But I wanted to just figure out how to do at least something he could do. Like, hey, you recognize this? I couldn't play a whole fucking song, but I could probably play a riff or play a little Ain't Talking About Love or play a little You Really Got Me or play those first chords of Running with the Devil. I mean, it's two chords, but you could never make them sound like that. Like, that's an awesome tone, his quote unquote brown tone coming out of Marshall. But he gave me a direction and a sense of purpose, dude. And also, he showed me what cool was. You know what? He could have been like Michael Jordan of that era, I mean, that's not a fair comparison, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Every guy wanted to be Eddie Van Halen, and that's the whole point of this podcast. I want to remind people that for that small moment in time, say 79, 80 to 82, 83, I don't know what it was, every guitar player in America wanted to be Eddie Van Halen, man. And this is what's kind of forgotten to history. And I just wanted to kind of give him a nod because it showed me a direction, and I'm still on that path today.
It's cool. It's cool because I think that's a really important point. Is he changed. It was one of those things where it was so prolific and so new. He changed the landscape of guitar, like his sound. You hear it reproduced by a lot of guitar players, but he was the originator of the tapping style, and no one had ever done that before. And it's really funny because like I was always like just like, when you watch him play, he's just like his fingers are moving all over. You're just like I don't know, but I saw some interview he did, and this couldn't have been more than 5 or 10 years ago, where he kind of talked about how he figured that out, and he said. He's like, I used to love Jimmy Page, and I saw one video of Jimmy Page doing hammer offs and it would end on the open note, right? So he would just be going like that. And he's like, and I thought if I move that open note and I could just move it up the thing and do this, and I finally, after playing guitar for 30 fucking years, I was like, oh, that makes. I mean, it was like the easiest thing in the world. It's one of those things like he does it so well though. It's easy looking and it's easy sounding, but it's different in practice, right? He makes it look easy and makes it seem easy, but it's like it takes an immense talent to hit it at the right time to make it go like perfectly, kind of that glistening sound. But it's so true. Like he was the shit. And I mean, I think it's also a cautionary tale because a lot of the reasons why people probably forgot about Van Halen is they sort of did themselves in.
Oh, yeah.
Him especially with alcohol, because one thing that alcoholics can do is they can really fucking throw wrenches into their world. And, he had this problem with David Lee Roth, and David Lee Roth is a narcissist kind of, he wanted to be the leader of the whole thing and all that. So it's not like he's innocent, but it was one of those things where, it just kind of folds in on itself, and you self-destruct, and then everybody's a problem, and then Sammy Hagar's a problem. And
I think that's a great point you made as far as a cautionary tale, because we always kind of arrive to these insights and conclusions on our web, on our podcast, and it's one reason I like talking to you so much. It is a cautionary tale, and that probably is why people don't remember him today like they remember some other artists. Because he hasn't been relevant for like 15 or 20 years. And that's because he was either a raging alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic that was in such bad physical shape that he couldn't even lead a productive life, Yeah. And to your point, you can say David Lee Roth's a dick. You can say Sammy Hagar's a dick. Nobody can say Michael Anthony's a dick. And he just burned through fucking band members. You have to wonder at the end of the deal, is it them or is it him?
No, dude, like that's
and reading a lot of post-death articles and stuff, all these great stories about Eddie Van Halen and Van Halen as a band are coming out. People are telling their little stories of this, stories of that. And I'm enjoying them, but you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together and starting to realize what it was really like or why these things happened. And Eddie and Alex are Dutch. They were born in Amsterdam. They were born in Holland, not in southern LA. And if you've ever spent any time in Holland or around Dutch people or even German people, but those are neighbors, you'll know that there's some of the most hot-headed people you'll ever meet in your life. And I heard this one guy, he was just describing both Van Halen brothers as ornery and just impossible to deal with, hot-headed. And so
you throw alcohol into that mix
and put all these things together, and it's probably that Eddie Van Halen just got wasted, got mad, and held a grudge. It's probably that simple,
The funny thing you said to me that made me laugh was the Michael Anthony thing, because it's so true. I mean, and I didn't realize that he had become part of that Hagar feud or whatever. And so, seeing him like going, yeah, it just wasn't right. I was just like, when I saw that, I was just like, man, if you lose this guy as a friend, like you've really fucking fucked up, because like you said, like Michael Anthony is just one of those dudes. It just seems like super nice, just pliable. Like will do what you need to do.
The last time, whenever Van Halen had a reunion in something like 2004, they made Michael Anthony take a pay cut and sign away all his future rights to the Van Halen name or likeness.
Oh man, that's harsh, dude.
Isn't it though? It's
like he helped make that band. I mean,
there's no doubt about it, man. And back to that pop thing. Another thing that really that I noticed re-listening to the songs was all their poppy background vocals. Everything is oh yeah, ooh, and it's like they do such a good job at it.
Yeah, well, Michael Anthony,
it's almost like it's classic song, man, and it's like it's great. It's like you can you can say, oh, it was all Eddie Van Halen or all Alex Van Halen or whatever, but that backup singing is just top notch throughout almost their whole career. That sounds really good.
Yeah, and what it was even more amazing to me is usually that shit will fall down a little bit in a live show. Not with them. Like Michael Anthony could hit that shit every time in live shows, and that's tough to do because that's that high pitched thing that he did. And so, man, it was, it's a really great point. I mean, it added so much to it. It was just a very original sound. How you could say like you're gonna lose the rights to this because it's like that's part of your sound is him singing that high falsetto, And so yeah, it's crazy, man. But again, it's like you said, you're hot-headed and then you throw alcohol into that or an alcoholic problem. I mean, I could imagine the fights that they probably had over the dumbest shit ever.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And then, look, I mean, the last few years or whatever, probably, I guess in the last one or two, I guess he's been more sick, but, when they were all like David Lee Roth was back and his son Wolfgang was playing with them, and it was kind of like, it sounded okay, but then there were some shows where I'm just kind of like, this, David Lee Roth is like, the best he could do is like turn around without falling over. And I mean, it was just kind of like, that thing where it's like, it's kind of sad in a way.
It was kind of sad. It was definitely a case of be careful what you wish for. You don't really want to see the original Van Halen lineup at this point in time, man. I mean, it sounded awful, dude. And I love David Lee Roth, but he was embarrassing himself, man. So one more thing I want to share another thought of you about like going back and listening to, well, a couple more thoughts, but going back and listening to all their albums all the way through Diver Down and then just a couple songs off 1984. Another thing that dawned on me is how melodic of a player Eddie Van Halen is. You think back to like 60s and 70s, so much of it is just like pentatonic blues scale type riffing and stuff. He played all the notes in the scale. But when I was young, I didn't have a good ear for melody, so all I could just hear was like the sound of the guitar, like the or the and just the trills and the fast picking. But with my musician ears these days, I hear the melodic movement in all his solos, and he was a very creative melody player. And it kind of ties into that what we were talking about. He was a classically raised piano player, and it shows in his guitar playing, man. It definitely shows. He thinks of almost everything he does in a linear melodic way, and I don't know if you heard that in his playing, but it kind of made me smile because he's a thinking guitar player. He's not just a shredder. Everything is conceived and conceptualized. He's basically just like a maniac creator, and so I got a kick out of that. It made me respect him and admire him even more, because he wasn't just about fireworks and pyrotechnics and hijinks. He was a thinking guitar player that worked his ass off to be original, to be one of the most original guitar players ever, but also just to make stuff that made him happy. Yeah. You can tell that was his driving force. Almost everything was like to outdo himself or to create something that he thought was good. Mm-hmm. And you can hear that drive throughout the whole trajectory. So then, I think, either 1984 or 5150 are their masterpiece, or maybe they're both their masterpieces. I didn't need to go back and listen to 1984 because I've listened to that album so many freaking times that I know what it is. Yeah. But I do want to talk about this. Panama. Is that not their best song, dude?
It's a fucking beauty song.
People would argue with you because they're going to have their favorites, but I just think it's like Van Halen just most fully realized with the guitar, with the David Lee Roth riffing, with Alex Van Halen just playing his ass off. It's fucking Van Halen. And if you want to talk about like those summer music memories, or when music takes you to a certain part of your life, like where it's high school, they're cruising in the cars. There's no song like that in my life for me that can top Panama, dude. It's going to be the age thing too, but man.
I agree. That's a great one. That's a wonderful tune, man. And it's like, that was a big impact too. Just like I mean, I don't know what to say about it. It's just one of those songs that the power of it is evident from the get go, and it just has that. And the video was a great homage to what the sound was, And I mean, if you watch that video, it's just it's just
It captures
exactly
it captures a time period too. You could like cue that up with like David Lee Roth like flying on the string with the fucking jam box on his shoulder. You could cue that up to like and show that to somebody from another planet or something and be like, this is what the world was like in the 1980s. Right. So cheesy, dude. Yeah. So fucking cheesy.
Well, and yeah, Hot for Teacher is another one that
oh my God. No, there's no doubt. Hot for Teacher could easily Panama's a little bit better, but Hot for Teacher, that double bass drum thing, and then with the it's just like when it comes, and then in the video for that one too,
right? As a 11-year-old, 12-year-old kid, kind of figuring things out a little bit, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that was a big one. And one for me that I really love off that album too is Top Jimmy, because I love that harmonic thing that he does at the beginning. That I mean, it's like
he's always so beautiful. Loved to play around with harmonics.
Well, and this is what I was going to say, because you had made a great point about how he used his skill level to make something beautiful with it. And then I was going to say, it's like, it wasn't just like, I'm going to do this to shred your face, man, and watch all these cool tricks I can do. It wasn't just fucking tricks. It was serious, like melodic sounding music. And it was classical in nature, but it was pop and rock at the same time. And that was like, for me, like one of those songs that really highlights that, is how, how beautiful that turned out to be. And then it has that just like, and it just goes right into the hit, the rockin' sound.
Yeah. And then so this is another thing I wanted to talk to you about. And hearing Hot for T-shirt a couple times recently, I was hearing something else in that song, dude. So how does the main guitar riff go? Okay, that's it. So how about this? There's some Lagrange in that song, dude. There's some Lagrange in there. We know
sped up,
exactly, almost like a double time Lagrange. And we know that Eddie was just a huge fan of Billy Gibbons. I can't say that it was copy there, but they're remarkably similar, and it just kind of made me grin because, like, they're doing the same thing to make the same music work in the same way.
I think it's a callback to that sound. It's just like it's just to get you in a mood, like
absolutely,
same mood he felt listening to that music or something.
Yeah, that shuffle boogie woogie thing that I was talking about. Well, cool, man. This was definitely worthwhile. Definitely took me back. I feel like I had a couple more even realizations on the whole thing, but bless Eddie Van Halen. He's a cool motherfucker, and his music lives on, right?
Yeah, but man, like he's one of my favorites. He always has been. And I saw this really cool, like real quick Instagram thing of him, and this is probably pretty recent in the last year or so. And he's like, hey man, hey, keep playing, man. That's all. That's it. It's music, man. Just keep playing. What's the problem? Just keep playing, man. And I thought that was so cool because it's like, there he is, just kind of laying it out, like the philosophy is like, just keep going, man. Just keep doing what you got to do.
Yeah, I wish I could have heard that when I was in my teens, because that motherfucker used to make me hate my guitar playing because I just like.
Well, this is why I didn't even try, dude. I was like, I know I'm never gonna do it. I was gonna piss me off. I
know, dude.
So.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Yep. I'll probably have to listen to some more later, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm about spent with that shit, dude. Maybe I can listen to some Van Hagar.
There you go. Jump in there. Cool, man. What do you think?
Well, let's wrap it up, man.
All right. Well, thanks again for everybody for listening. We're Pie of the Corner. You can catch us on all the podcasting platforms and also on YouTube. Any final thoughts, Shane?
So y'all, we're doing this YouTube thing now, and we're building an audience, and we're just trying to build an audience and make a go of this thing. And so we're starting to get a few subscribers. We're starting to get a few more listens. If you're into us, or if you just want to help us out, subscribe to us. It helps us with the algorithms and anything. And, even if you subscribe to us, you don't have to watch every podcast. Just subscribe to us. We need you. Like our video if you like it, of course. Don't like it if you don't like it. And we've been getting a few comments here and there. We love that too. If you want to see me jump around in excitement and just get really, really, really excited, leave a comment, because I know you want to see me get excited.
All right. Take care, y'all. Thanks again.
Okay, ciao.